Hi, I'm Francis Newton and I'm a town planner and urbanist. I've been working for City of Edinburgh Council now, the planning service, for 15 years. So we're here at the start point of the Old Town Tour, which is the Scottish Parliament at Holyrood.
The Scottish Parliament, which bookends the eastern end of the Royal Mile with the Palace of Holyrood, opened in 2004. Following Scottish devolution, the history and residents of Holyrood was seen to offer a natural location for the new seat of Scottish Government. Designed by the Catalan architect Enric Morales, it continues to enjoy critical acclaim, beautifully complementing the Old Town urban grain. Much of the Holyrood North area, including the site of the Parliament, was occupied by the Scottish and Newcastle Brewery until the late 1990s. Based on a master plan prepared by John Hope Architects, Holyrood North has redeveloped organically through the past 25 years to achieve a mix of uses, including residential, hotels, student accommodation, commercial and cultural uses, including the Scottish Poetry Library. The master plan has sought to respect the herringbone street pattern, with the ancient closes radiating from the Royal Mile, offering striking vistas to Salisbury Crags and Holyrood Park. Regeneration has seen the retention of historic buildings with new contemporary architecture to achieve an intimacy typical of the Old Town's character.
We're in the New Waverley Quarter now and we're here to meet Clive Wilding from ARTISAN Developments, who've been responsible for the development of this area over the past decade.
We are the developer for New Waverley. Just going back in time, originally this whole area was the back side of New Waverley Station. It was where coal was delivered, where gas was generated. It's where the local bus company parked the coaches. So it was very much a derelict, no-go area for many, many years. The council took the first bold step of moving their offices into this location, and that really set a pattern for change. 25 million people go through New Waverley Station every year, and half of those disappear into 3 other exits, but very few of them move south towards, further down the hill towards Holyrood itself. So one of our primary urban objectives was to try and get people moving from the station down through our development. That's how we saw the original master plan. So there was a few sort of failed efforts over the years when the bus garage closed, became surplus. The land was left derelict for some time. There was a scheme that failed financially, that never got built. We purchased the site unconditionally, I think it was about 2013. This is a World Heritage Site, a conservation area. It's got every planning restriction that goes with it, and therefore one has to recognise and work with that. And obviously it was a very important part of Edinburgh. So whilst the original scheme had approval, there were many things that didn't quite work, and also actually quite work financially and sustainably. So what we needed to do was to work with the council, work with partners to come up with what is something that was deliverable and was long-term sustainable. Our solution to that really was looking at mixed use. We saw it's important to come up with office, which is to the right, hotels, and residential, which is behind us.
We were founded in 1875 really to commemorate the work of our namesake, Lord Cockburn, who, as a judge, he was and a literary figure, he was probably Scotland's first conservationist, really. In 1849, he wrote a pamphlet called A Letter to the Lord Provost on the Best Ways of Spoiling the Beauty of Edinburgh. And that perhaps explains how we go about our work, which is about advocacy, it's about campaigning, it's about presenting coherent and plausible arguments for seeking the kind of best changes. We have two purposes. One is to protect the amenity of the city of Edinburgh and its neighbourhood, and the other is to conserve its architectural and landscape and historic heritage. But the really big pressure that the Old Town has experienced recently, because of this drive towards tourism, which has been both a Scottish government and a council kind of agenda, is the explosion of short-term lets. You know, the short-term Airbnb. Airbnb is a platform. There's many other platforms that use short-term kind of lets. Now, to the extent that something like just before the COVID pandemic and the crash, almost a third of all homes in the Old Town had become a short-term let.
My interest in the Royal Mile is I'm MD of a chain of shops in the Royal Mile. Various chains from souvenir shops to Taste of Scotland shops to whisky shops and cashmere shops. Over the last 15 to 20 years, we've been working in the street here, and we've changed the character of the street to make it thriving, employing hundreds of people year in and year out, and enhancing all the shops in the street to make it a thriving market area for tourists from all over the world to come to spend their money. In the last year, we've been struggling right through, and we've just been wanting to keep our staff, our loyal staff who's with us all these years, number of years. So it's been very, very difficult, and we're getting through it, and we can see some light through the tunnel.
We've now reached the University Old Court, where we're going to meet Sir Timothy O'Shea and Gary Jebb from the University of Edinburgh.
So I'm Tim O'Shea. I was the Principal and Vice-Chancellor of the University for 15 years, starting in 2002. So the University contributes to the life of the city in all sorts of ways. There isn't an artistic or creative enterprise in the city that doesn't have university involvement. In recent years, it's become the home of the Edinburgh Festival Fringe, the largest arts festival in the world. And in Bristow Square and in George Square and in big buildings, that event, which in 2019 sold about 3.5 million tickets. The university is at the heart of that, and that business, I'm very, very pleased to learn that other festivals are setting up shop within the university, and this courtyard itself is a place which during August will come alive with artistic endeavour. So there is a very strong relationship there, and obviously an immensely strong relationship to the different professions in Edinburgh, whether it's medicine or accountancy or, for that matter, architecture and design.
My name's Gary Jebb. I'm the Director of Place for the University of Edinburgh. Some of my responsibilities include strategic responsibility for the estate, but also the accommodation, catering and events portfolio, which includes festivals, and also how we as a university interact with the city. It's important that we take a very strategic approach to how the estate is operated and delivered. The university has to operate its own estate, but it is also responsible for ensuring that the fabric is ready for our successors. So part of our job is to make sure that we have an estate that supports the activity, and above all, it is about the activity. But we also are responsible for looking after the beloved tartan. The All Blacks have a saying that when you become an All Black, you're only looking after the shirt. And we have a saying that we're here looking after the beloved tartan. and it's never truer than here in Edinburgh. Our responsibility is to look after the phenomenal fabric of this city and of this university.
Bristow Square represents a focal point for the university's Old Town campus and a major public space where town and gown converge, also serving as a major venue during the Edinburgh Festival. Developed in 1983, the square was remodelled in 2017 to form a revitalised public space and setting for the university's impressive McEwan Hall. Quarter Mile was previously Edinburgh's Royal Infirmary, closing in 2003 when a new facility opened at the city's southwestern periphery. A master plan prepared by Foster & Partners has seen the retention of key historic buildings fused with contemporary architecture, introducing new urban spaces and promoting greater permeability through the site. Almost 15 years since redevelopment began, the project is now entering its final phase to form a major new urban quarter featuring residential uses with social housing, digital businesses, with the university's Edinburgh Futures Institute due for open next year.
I have a couple of interests here. Firstly, I'm a resident, I live here now most of the time, and I'm actually responsible for the Futures Institute, which is the last phase of Quarter Mile being constructed now for the university. We're standing in Leicester Square, which is right at the centre, and it suffers from a lack of footfall. And the reasons for that are many and various. I mean, it's not on route to anywhere particularly, and the north-south routes through the site, which were intended, never really came off. There was one, but it was curtailed after antisocial behaviour and local residents asked for it to be closed, which is a real shame. But if the north-south route didn't work, the east-west one, they're okay, but they don't really go to anywhere. So that's why the footfall is quite light here. So it's difficult when you're walking through the development to see where the retail activity is. And one or two of the businesses have failed over time simply because they don't have enough custom. And it's not been helped by lockdown, I have to say. And what you're seeing behind me at the moment is the busiest I've seen it for ages, because the businesses are now coming back. There's a few people sitting outside. Kids are now using the square for roller skating and so on, which is rather good. But it's been quite lifeless a lot of the time in the centre of the space. Well, I think the most successful thing is its scale and its matting. I think it's very dense, which is a good thing, and it gets activity to the place. It's mixed, so it's got housing of different types plus commercial. And when the university element is finished, it'll be very mixed. So you have another 1,000 people walking through and across the site of a different type, which is extremely helpful. I think the spaces are generous, and I think the public realm is very good. So overall, I would say it's an addition to Edinburgh. And when people look into it from outside, they're very complimentary about it. It was particularly the combination of old and new, where they've retained parts of the old hospital, had to demolish others, but the new elements in between are quite distinguished.
The Grass Market, which forms one of the principal urban spaces in the Old Town, has been a place for trading, meeting and socialising since medieval times. So previously a space heavily dominated by surface car parking and through traffic, the public realm was extensively remodelled in 2007 to create a space for people, this featuring as a Great Place finalist in the Urbanism Awards in 2010.
So that's us, reached the end of our Old Town tour, and we've reached the Castle Esplanade. Thank you for watching.